and some of whom continue to work in shorts as well. And we're going to learn about that transition into the world of features and how they navigated that jump. I want to introduce you to all of them individually and then have them also introduce themselves and talk a little bit about the films in the program. First of all, here next to my left, we have Giselle Bonilla, director of the musical. We have Adam Meeks, director of Union County. We have Mireia Vilanova, who is producer of Once in a Body. And then we have Gabriela Osio Vaden, director of Nuisance Bear. And last, certainly not least, we have Jack Weisman, director of Nuisance Bear. So thank you for being here. This is an amazing, very diverse panel, I feel like, in terms of the films that you are all representing. So Giselle, maybe we could start with you, if you could tell us a little bit about your film in your own words, maybe for anybody who's not familiar with it. It is also screening later today if you haven't seen it yet.
At 6:30. Yeah, the musical is a dark comedy about a disgruntled middle school theater teacher who seeks revenge on the school's principal by putting up a controversial middle school play and ruining the principal's chances of winning an academic award.
Thank you. Adam, we'll come to you next. Tell us about Union County.
Union County is a recovery story set in the small town Ohio where I'm from originally. It kind of follows two foster brothers who are kind of in different stages of their recovery, and it's also sort of about the community that they find along the way. It's obviously just as funny as Giselle's. It's hilarious.
I'm sure that's true. Mireia, tell us about Once in a Body, which is screening as part of our shorts program.
Yes, and it's screening today at 2:45, if anybody wants to see the shorts. It's a great vlog. Once in a Body, Una vez en un cuerpo is an animated short. It's a Colombian-US co-production, and it's a meditation on body dysmorphia as seen through the eyes of a woman and her relationship with her sister.
And Gabriela and Jack, please tell us about Nuisance Bear.
Nuisance Bear is a feature documentary following a polar bear, a specific polar bear, as it goes through its migration, going through two different communities that coexist in different ways.
Yeah, I'm Jack Weisman. I'm one of the directors of Nuisance Bear, which is playing at 3:45 today, if you want to come check it out. It's an experiential movie, so we tried to sort of tell the bear's perspective as it navigates this changing world, and so it's quite an intense experience, so if you can come, please do.
Well, to kick us all off, before we get too deep into the features process, I'd love to know what's your favorite thing about making a short or about the shorts filmmaking process. This could be for anybody.
I feel like there's a lot of freedom in making a short because there's no expectations really, and that was something that I've just longed for in the feature process, I think, too, is just the lack of expectations.
I think that in animation, I come from live action. I only started working in animation 4 years ago, and being able to make these animated shorts these past few years has been just a great way of working with very interesting filmmakers, because animation takes so long and it's very difficult to finance. Doing the shorts is just a great way of like establishing a relationship with those interesting voices and seeing, what a future collaboration might look like before embarking on a crazy, 10-year journey.
I feel like it's because of it's cheaper and faster, and what that does is it allows you to sort of take risks and figure out, who you are and how you make things, and I think like I sort of learned who I was and what I love to make by making shorts.
Yeah, I feel like all of my shorts are way more experimental than my feature, and there were also great ways to like date my collaborators, where you just like are trying it out, like kind of like what you were saying. One of them ended up being my boyfriend, so it works out. No, I'm just kidding. But, I'm gonna stop.
Well, I mean, that's a good point though about this like testing ground, features as testing, the shorts as testing grounds for the features. And I know several of you are here with first features, and your shorts, really were that testing ground. Did you envision those films as proofs of concept when you were coming up with them? And if so, like how does that sort of impact the way that you like approach making the short?
We had the script written before we made the short version of the musical, and we it was interesting with the short. It was like, okay, let's just focus on like a single moment and like a character's decision, and it was like, I feel like those I've made a lot of like chaotic shorts that don't make any sense and were bad, but like I feel like the strongest ones are always like the ones where it's like just about one single moment and you can like really go hard on that for like 12 minutes or whatever. So that was always the goal, is to just like get the tone across, because it is kind of like a tricky tonal balance, this one, and we were able to audition that with the short. And just like ripping off music we couldn't afford because no one cares about unlicensed music in short films.
Mine was the opposite, where I just made a short because I had written something that I wanted to make, and it was it also kind of contained a new process that I was excited by, and I sort of came to the feature in post on the short and felt like I had more I wanted to explore. I felt affirmed by the process and felt like I was sort of coming into something, and it sort of felt like unfinished business or something. It was like just the tip of the iceberg. Now let's keep going. Freeing, even with a lot of constraints for a feature, just to have a bit more time and to be able to kind of focus in.
And trusting the people around you, that was something that I feel like I struggled with. With the short, we did it all ourselves, and then to have a bigger team and letting them do why we brought them on, what to do. It took a while for me. I guess I kept getting in the way of stuff.
Mireia, I want to come to you. You've worked consistently in both shorts and features, and you've kind of gone back and forth between them consistently. How does your approach as a producer really change when you're switching back and forth?
I think that now I've been able to compartmentalize things pretty well, because everything that I do in live action is features. I don't do live action shorts anymore. It was just, as a producer, it's just way too much work for like no money. And when a short does well, even in the best case scenarios, nobody really cares about who the producer is, which is very fair. So it was like, I don't know what I'm getting out of like a lot of these unless there's like a short that I must do. So it's been great to just be able to focus on the features with the live action, and on the animation. I've been very fortunate to be able to be now working in like both the shorts and the features. I think that because animation takes so long in some cases, just being able to work consistently with shorts, it's just a great way for me to meet more interesting voices, whether they're based in the US or abroad. And also, have more animation experience, because it took me a while, again, because I come from live action. At the very beginning in the animation space, nobody really knew who I was, and now people are like, oh, so you're an animation producer, have you ever considered doing live action? And it's like, yeah, I come from live action, thank you. So, but it's a lot of like great lessons that I've learned, and a lot of like, by doing shorts and watching a ton of animated shorts, I've been able to find interesting collaborators. Right now, I'm in production on my first animated feature that is going to premiere at the Venice Film Festival through the Biennale College Cinema program. And that was a filmmaker, Daniel Zverev, who's wonderful, who had a short at Sundance in 2024. And I don't think that if I didn't have experience in shorts, I don't even think that I would have thought of like, let's look at all of the shorts and let's see who is interesting and who is working in that space and might be cool to do a feature with.
And how do you decide which filmmakers to work with and to kind of like bet on as you kind of embark on a new project?
I think that it just really depends. So for Once in a Body, I met Maria Cristina in 2023 at an animation market in Spain, and I really love her style. I mean, her style is very consistent. All of her work is these beautiful oil paintings, and we knew that she was a very interesting voice, but because she's based in Colombia, and it's very difficult to do international co-pros when you're in the US because there's no treaties and there's no public funding. There's a way, and the ways and the waterfalls are different if you're financing a US production or an international co-pro. So in this case, we knew that we wanted to do something with her. She had a great feature that she's now in production on. that we really wanted to do, but we didn't know. And so when she came to us with the short, it was like, oh, yes, absolutely, a no-brainer. And then with Living with a Visionary, which is another animated short that I had at Sundance this year, similar situation. I met the director in 2022 in LA, and his name is Stephen Neary. He created a show on Cartoon Network called The Fungies. We were huge fans. At the time, his series, the 3 seasons of his series had been on HBO Max, and they got deleted from the platform for the tax break. And so when I came to him, I'm like, would you like to develop another show? He was like, absolutely not. This has killed me. I will never do this again. I think that maybe now with time, I think that all of those wounds have healed. But at the time, it was just a really difficult time for him. And so it was like, okay, well, if you ever have any ideas or anything, just please come to us. We think that you have a very interesting voice. And so when he came to us with the idea for that short, it was like, oh, again, also no-brainer. Like, we'll do whatever you want to do.
I want to go back a little bit to something that Adam was saying about that urgency that you have with the shorts process. With the feature, it can, especially with development, it can take years, right, before a project is really off the ground. I know many of you experience this directly. So I'm wondering, how do you sort of stay motivated during that process?
Poverty.
Or do you have advice for other people looking to get into first features who, might be facing a long development process?
I think, I always felt like there wasn't an alternative. Like, I really was just like, what am I gonna do? Stop? Like, you either do it or you either kind of see it through or you don't. And I think the process is just kind of like, there are just enough kind of different stages to it that like, there are a lot of like little shifts and victories, hopefully along the way, that make you go, okay, now we're one step closer. Like, we got to that point. Like, it was about 5 years for me from the short to the feature. And so it'd be like, okay, 2 years in, like the script is at a good place. And then like, oh, cool, now we have these producers that feel like they're, can get this up and running. And now we have our lead actress. Now we can go out for financing. And like, each of these steps along the way just kind of help you really feel like this thing is moving and that it will happen. And so I think I had enough like sort of friends who had done it a couple years ahead of me to also know that it really just is an endurance game. And so you kind of just like make peace with a couple years of depression and celebrate the wins as best you can along the way. And I think what that did for me, and I really feel it now on the other side of this, is like it encouraged me just to be really present in the process day to day. And I feel more able to do that now on the other side of the 5-year process. Is I've seen the result of the day-to-day decisions and the day-to-day work, and I don't take for granted any of that. And now I've been telling myself I'll just be happy if it takes any less time for the second one than 5 years,
Like, I have no, it's done, whatever, leave me. I have no writing discipline, it's terrible, and it drives me nuts. I am my own worst enemy. And so I always invite collaborators, and we just like, I just need I have really great, really talented writer friends who are just like so annoying about writing, and they're like, let's meet today, let's meet. It's like working out, and I'm just like, oh, and then we do, and I'm so grateful that they're like always there, like, texting every day, let's meet, whatever. And like for the musical, Alex was a sole writer, and he writes very fast, and we would just like, in the 3 years it took to like find financing, we just kept like meeting in his kitchen and like acting out the scenes and trying to find better ways of doing it, and we just like fully became the characters, and it was really fun to just like be able to know every character before you're even on set, because I feel like once you're on set, there's like clear decisions, everyone's asking you a million questions, and it's like easier to kind of navigate that as opposed to like having to like develop the idea. You never know when you're done, and it's like even when you're done, you're like, oh, I wasn't done, I should have kept going. It's just like, I don't know, so I always invite collaborators in, because I don't have that on my own for writing.
Yeah, I totally have. You need to build a community of people to keep you going. We're lucky because there was the two of us, and when one of us would get really like depressed and feel like nothing was working or whatever, the other one would just be like, "No, it'll be fine." And then I would be like, "I don't know, this is good." And then he'd be like, so we're really lucky in that regard. But I think we were also lucky to have a producer who was like our dad. Like we'd always be frustrated with him because he'd be like, "Okay, we have to meet and do that," and we're like, "What are we even doing?" You know?
He's incredibly disciplined.
Yeah, and then we'll like fight with him, be annoyed at him, and we're like, "Oh, thank God he was there to like push us." Because it is so hard to keep that stamina, and we didn't even have as long of a process. I mean, overall, this
10
whole
years is a long time.
10 years. I just went once we got funding for the feature, but yeah.
8 years later.
I don't think I wouldn't have been able to do this on my own. I'm really grateful that it was the two of us because it is such a long time. And I think also picking a topic that you find endlessly fascinating really helps when you can keep being inspired by it.
Polar bears have a commercial appeal to them. We realized, it seems like we're joking, but we really didn't think that they were going to be this big when we started this project. It just was like this crazy environment we were shocked by. And so I think having that little nugget that people could sort of be excited about really, really helped. And then when you get a critical mass of people around the project, then it's kind of self-generating. I think that's really important to have that.
They were our A-list actor. That's a talk.
I mean, I can really empathize with the producer being like the parent to the filmmakers. Like this has happened to me several times. At this point, I've done 4 features, and 3 of them have been first features. And first of all, I think that the money factor is very important. I think that I've worked with some filmmakers who maybe don't need the income as urgently and then can take more time. And then you're on top of them being like, "So when is the next draft coming?" And it's like, "Well, you know." And then I have people who actually really do need to make this. And I think that, ultimately, for me, at the very least, of like the keeping the motivation, it all depends on like how motivated the filmmaker themselves are. Because if you're actually not super thrilled to make your movie, then I'm not gonna be the one who is trying to convince you that you should actually continue, that you should meet your deadlines, or that we should make sure that we have materials for like X market or this other market and things.